The alarm didn't sound when Jake Morrison walked through the scanner at the Galactic Academy entrance. The security system was designed to detect weapons, unauthorized biologicals, and anything that could threaten the 3,000 alien students inside. The gray wolf padding beside him on a leather leash triggered nothing. The Xanthari guard barely glanced at them before waving Jake through. Professor Velshara was mid-lecture when Jake entered the xenobiology classroom. The insectoid professor's mandibles clicked rapidly as she gestured at the holographic display floating above her desk. Hundreds of extinct Earth species rotated slowly in the blue light. Jake recognized passenger pigeons, dodos, and then his breath caught. There, spinning lazily among the lost creatures, was a gray wolf. The wolf beside him, Luna, sat without being told. Her amber eyes tracked every movement in the room. 40 alien students turned to stare. Akrillian in the front row dropped his data pad. The clattering sound echoed in the sudden silence. Professor Velshara's antennae twitched, her compound eyes fixed on Luna. For 5 full seconds, nobody moved. Then, the professor's translator crackled to life. Her voice came out as a strangled wheeze. "That is impossible." Jake kept his expression neutral. He'd been on station for 3 weeks. Long enough to learn that humans were considered primitive. Backward. Their planet was a backwater world that had barely scratched the surface of galactic society. The other species had been traveling the stars for millennia, while humanity was still figuring out fire. That's what they believed. Anyway, "This is Luna," Jake said. His voice carried across the silent classroom. "She's a gray wolf. Canis lupus. I brought her for the presentation on Earth megafauna." A Thex student in the back row made a sound like grinding metal. "The records show wolves extinct for 200 cycles. Our survey teams confirmed it." Jake felt Luna tense beside him. Her ears flattened slightly. He rested his hand on her head, feeling the coarse fur under his palm. She relaxed immediately. "Your survey teams were wrong." Professor Velshara moved closer. Her movements were jerky, uncertain. She'd taught xenobiology for 60 years. She'd personally verified the extinction data. Her research team had spent 5 years cataloging dead Earth species. Wolves were gone. The galactic database said so. Every reputable source confirmed it. Luna's lips pulled back slightly, revealing white teeth. Not a snarl, just a warning. The professor stopped 3 meters away. "How?" Velshara's translator struggled with the word. "How is this creature here?" Jake smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. "Because humans don't let things stay extinct when we can help it. We brought them back. Wolves have been running wild in Yellowstone for decades now. We have breeding programs across 6 continents. There are over 30,000 wolves on Earth." A Dravik student stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. "That's impossible. The genetic damage. The population bottleneck. No species recovers from functional extinction. Human species do." Jake's hand moved to the pocket of his jacket. Every alien in the room tensed. He pulled out a data chip slowly, deliberately. "I have documentation, genetic records, population surveys, camera footage of wolf packs in Siberia, Canada, Mongolia, and Alaska. We didn't just save wolves. We brought back bison, California condors, black-footed ferrets, and we're working on passenger pigeons." He walked to the professor's desk and placed the chip down. Luna followed, her claws clicking on the polished floor. The sound made a Xanthari student flinch. "Your database is 70 years out of date," Jake continued. "You marked us as primitive. Not worth a detailed survey. You assumed we'd let our megafauna die like every other species does during industrial development." Professor Velshara picked up the data chip with a trembling claw. Her voice was barely audible. "What else did you bring back?" Jake's smile widened. "Everything we could. And Professor, we're just getting started." Luna sat beside him, calm and patient. Outside the window, Earth hung in the darkness like a blue marble, On its surface, wolves howled in forests that aliens had declared dead. In laboratories and nature preserves, scientists worked on species the galaxy had written off as lost forever. The extinct were walking again, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The alarm system still showed green. No threats detected. The irony wasn't lost on Jake. The most dangerous thing in the room was human stubbornness, and there wasn't a sensor in the galaxy that could measure that. Professor Velshara's compound eyes didn't blink as she stared at the wolf. Her world had just gotten more complicated. The primitive humans had rewritten the rules of conservation biology, and they'd done it without asking permission. Without following the established protocols. Without acknowledging that extinction was supposed to be permanent. Jake waited. He had 4 more parts to his presentation, and Luna was just the opening act. In his quarters, he had files on brown bears, sea otters, and humpback whales, species the galactic community had mourned as casualties of humanity's development, species that were thriving now, decades after they should have vanished forever. The Galactic Academy was about to get an education in human persistence, and judging by the expressions around the room, they weren't ready for it. The data chip felt heavy in Professor Velshara's claw. She looked at Jake, then at Luna, then back at the holographic display of extinct species. Her mandibles clicked 3 times, a sign of deep distress in Zenthari body language. "Please," she said quietly, "tell us everything. Tell us everything." Jake pulled up a chair. Luna lay down at his feet. "It started with a man named Aldo Leopold," Jake began, "and the realization that we'd made a terrible mistake. The lecture Professor Velshara had planned was forgotten. The next 4 hours would change everything the Galactic Academy thought they knew about Earth. And Jake Morrison, with a wolf at his side, was just getting started. The emergency faculty meeting started 20 minutes after Jake's presentation ended. Dean Courtnax sat at the head of the crystalline table, his 6 eyes reviewing data streams simultaneously. Professor Velshara stood beside him, still visibly shaken. 15 department heads filled the room, representing every major species in the Galactic Coalition. "The genetic data is verified," announced Professor Thim, the Vexorian biologist. His tentacles coiled and uncoiled nervously as he spoke. "I've run it through 3 separate databases. The wolves are real. More than that, they show genetic diversity impossible for a recovered population. The humans didn't just clone them. They must have preserved genetic material we didn't detect." Dean Courtnax's primary eyes focused on Velshara. "Your survey of Earth was comprehensive. How did we miss this?" Velshara's antennae drooped. "We surveyed 70 years ago. During their industrial expansion, wolf populations were at their lowest point. We extrapolated based on standard extinction models. Every species follows the same pattern once industrialization begins. Habitat loss, hunting pressure, pollution. The mathematics are consistent across 800 documented civilizations. Except humans don't follow the pattern," growled Professor Cash, a Dravic warfare historian. Her scales rippled with agitation. "I've been reviewing their military history. They're unpredictable. Illogical. They form emotional attachments to other species. They keep predators in their homes as companions. They cry over animals that aren't even sentient." A Krillian professor tapped his claws on the table. "We classified them as Category 7. Primitive, industrialists, low threat potential, minimal innovation capacity. Standard protocol was to leave them alone for another 2 centuries before formal contact. That classification needs revision." Dean Courtnax's voice carried the weight of authority. "Endar. Endar. 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 If they can reverse extinction events, They've achieved something no other known species has accomplished. The Vexorians lost the great ocean dwellers. The Zenthari watched our forest giants die. Even the Krillians, with all their technology, couldn't save the sky serpents. Thim's tentacles went rigid. They have documentation on over 40 species recoveries. 40. Some were functionally extinct for decades before humans intervened. This isn't luck or accident. They have a systematic approach to conservation we've never encountered. This, augmented, they were before this. Pull up the Earth monitoring data from the last 70 years, Courtnax ordered. I want to see what else we missed. Holographic displays filled the room. Satellite imagery, population surveys, ecological data. Velshara manipulated the controls, fast-forwarding through decades. The changes were stark. Green spreading where brown had dominated. Blue waterways clearing. Animal populations growing in exponential curves. There. Velshara froze the display. Yellowstone National Park. This is where they reintroduced wolves. The image showed a barren landscape, streams cutting deep erosion channels, vegetation sparse and struggling. This is 5 years later. The landscape transformed. Trees grew taller. Vegetation thickened. The streams changed course, becoming wider. Slower. Beaver dams appeared. The entire ecosystem had restructured itself. The wolves changed everything, Thim whispered. They controlled the herbivore populations, which allowed vegetation to recover, which stabilized the soil, which changed the waterways. It's a cascade effect. One species returning triggered the recovery of hundreds. Cash leaned forward. They weaponized ecology. They saved it, corrected Velshara. And they did it intentionally. Look at the dates. They planned this. Decades of preparation, genetic preservation, habitat restoration. This wasn't desperation. This was strategy. Courtnax stood. His full height reached 3 meters. What else is Jake Morrison carrying? Velshara pulled up the manifest from Jake's arrival. He declared educational materials, biological samples under diplomatic immunity, cultural artifacts. He has clearance for all of it. What specifically? Velshara's antennae trembled as she read. Genetic samples from 217 species. Historical data on conservation efforts. Video documentation. And live specimens. Live specimens? Plural? He has 3 animals in quarantine. The wolf was just the first. The others are listed as brown bear, Ursus arctos, and peregrine falcon, Falco peregrinus. Both were marked extinct in our databases. The room went silent. Finally, a Thex professor spoke, her voice like grinding stone. How many extinct Earth species are actually extinct? Velshara manipulated the controls. The holographic display showed Earth's extinction list. 247 species marked as lost. Red indicators began changing to green as she cross-referenced Jake's data. 53 species updated. Then 92. Then 115. Nearly half, Velshara said. Nearly half of the species we declared extinct are still alive. Some are even thriving. Courtnax's 6 eyes narrowed. Why didn't they tell us? Why let us believe their world was dying? Professor Cash's laugh was bitter. Because we classified them as primitive. We stopped paying attention. They had no reason to report to us. They weren't asking for our help or our approval. This changes everything, Thim said. If humans can reverse extinction, they have knowledge every species in the galaxy needs. The Vexorian Council would pay fortunes for this information. The Zenthari Collective would grant them full membership status immediately. They don't want our money or status, Cash interrupted. I've studied their culture. They're not like us. They don't think in terms of galactic politics. Then what do they want? Courtnax demanded. The door opened. Jake Morrison walked in without knocking. Luna padded beside him. Behind them came a Zenthari security officer, mandibles clicking in protest. "Sir." He refused to wait. "It's fine." Courtnax waved the guard away. "Mr. Morrison, we were just discussing your presentation." "No." Jake's expression remained neutral. "I know. Your communication systems aren't as secure as you think." Luna could hear you from the hallway. "See, Roxen." Every alien in the room looked at the wolf. Luna sat calmly, tongue lolling slightly, looking nothing like the threat she represented. "What do humans want?" Courtnax asked directly. Jake smiled. "Recognition. Not as primitives or backwater curiosities. As equals. We've been watching the galaxy for 70 years through the monitoring equipment you left behind. We know about the trade routes, the technology exchanges, the political alliances. We know you've been treating Earth as a nature preserve, a planet to check on every few centuries. Your technology level is irrelevant," Jake interrupted. "We don't have faster-than-light travel yet. We don't have energy shields or gravity manipulators. But we have something none of you have. We refuse to let things die." Velshara's voice was soft. "The wolves. You brought them back because you couldn't accept they were gone. We brought them back because it was right, because ecosystems need apex predators, because we made a mistake and we fixed it, because extinction doesn't have to be forever if you're willing to work hard enough." Thim's tentacles coiled tight. "That's impossible. Once genetic diversity drops below critical thresholds, you find ways around it. You preserve tissue samples. You map genomes. You carefully manage breeding populations. You reintroduce gradually, monitor constantly, adjust as needed. It takes generations. It takes patience. It takes giving a damn." Jake's voice hardened. "The galaxy gave up. Humans don't." Courtnax studied the human for a long moment. "You're angry. Yes. You marked my planet as dying. You cataloged our losses like we were just another failed species. You were wrong. And now, you're realizing that maybe humans aren't as primitive as you thought. That's not anger. That's satisfaction." Cash barked a laugh. "I like this one. He has warrior spirit." "What do you want from us?" Courtnax asked again. "Reclassification. Update your databases. Stop treating Earth like a planet in terminal decline. And maybe, just maybe, ask us for help instead of assuming we need yours." "Help with what?" Jake pulled a data drive from his pocket. "Every species in this room has an extinction list. Species you lost during your industrial ages, your wars, your expansions. We can't promise success, but we've developed techniques that work. Genetic preservation, habitat restoration, population management. We'll share it. Freely." "Why?" Velshara asked. "What do you gain?" "Nothing. That's not why we do it. We save species because they deserve to exist. Because ecosystems are stronger with diversity. Because extinction is forever. Unless you make it not be." Jake placed the data drive on the table. Luna stood and stretched. "I have 2 more presentations this week. Brown bears on Thursday. Peregrine falcons on Friday. After that, I'm going back to Earth. But this drive contains 70 years of conservation data. Successes, failures, techniques, genetic databases. It's yours if you want it." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Professor Velshara? That lecture on Earth megafauna? You might want to update it. The passenger pigeon won't be extinct much longer. We're about 5 years from reintroduction." Jake and Luna left. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. 15 of the galaxy's greatest minds sat in silence, staring at a small data drive that represented everything they thought they knew being wrong. Dean Courtnax picked up the drive. "Someone get me the Galactic Council. Tell them we need to discuss Earth's classification. Immediately." Professor Cash was already on her communicator. And someone tell the military observers to stand down. The last thing we need is humans thinking we're a threat. Why would we be a threat? Asked a Thex professor. Cash's scales rippled. Because if they can bring back wolves, they can bring back anything, including species that might be very interested in payback. And humans, apparently, have a gift for holding grudges and correcting mistakes. Best we stay on their good side. In the hallway, Jake scratched Luna behind the ears. That went well. Luna's tail wagged once. Together, they walked toward the observation deck, where Earth hung in the black. On its surface, wolves ran through forests, bears caught salmon in rivers, and condors soared over canyons. The extinct were alive, and the galaxy was starting to understand what that meant. Behind them, the emergency faculty meeting continued into the night. By morning, Earth's classification would change. By the end of the week, 36 species would request access to human conservation data, and somewhere in a laboratory in Montana, scientists would celebrate the hatching of the first passenger pigeon in over a century. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. It wouldn't make that mistake again. Jake's second presentation drew a crowd. The auditorium, designed for 200, held over 400 aliens, with dozens more watching via remote feed. Security had tripled. Not because they feared Jake, but because 3 different ambassador groups had demanded access. Word had spread fast. The brown bear waiting backstage was named Kodiak. He weighed 600 pounds and had the temperament of a particularly relaxed house cat, at least around Jake. The veterinary team that had examined him that morning was less certain. A Zenthari doctor had refused to enter the room until Jake demonstrated that Kodiak would sit, stay, and accept treats with surprising gentleness. "They're calling you the Extinction Killer," said Lisa Park, another human student who'd arrived 2 years earlier. She was studying xenolinguistics and had appointed herself Jake's unofficial translator of alien politics. "Half the station thinks you're a hero. The other half thinks you're insane. What do you think?" Jake asked, checking Kodiak's collar for the 3rd time. "I think you're going to start a war, or a revolution, and I'm not sure which." Lisa grinned. "Also, there's a betting pool on whether you brought dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are a bit outside our capability. That's not a no." Jake smiled. "The presentation is about to start." The auditorium fell silent when Jake walked on stage. Kodiak followed, his massive paws silent on the polished floor despite his bulk. The bear's brown fur gleamed under the lights. His small eyes surveyed the crowd with what appeared to be mild curiosity. Dean Kortnak sat in the front row beside 2 Galactic Council observers. Behind them, faculty from every department filled the seats. Jake recognized a Krillian admiral in the back, trying to look inconspicuous despite his military insignia. "This is Kodiak," Jake began without preamble. "Ursus arctos. Brown bear. Your database lists this species as extinct, victim of habitat loss and human expansion. The last confirmed sighting was marked 63 years ago, in what you call the Northern Territories of Earth." He activated the holographic display. Images filled the air above the stage. Bears fishing in rivers. Bears walking through forests. Bears with cubs. Hundreds of bears across dozens of locations. Current population estimate: 37,000. They're in Russia, Canada, Alaska, Montana, Wyoming. They've recolonized habitats we thought were lost forever. Some of those habitats we had to help recover. Some they recovered on their own once we stopped shooting them. A Vexorian professor raised a tentacle. The genetic bottleneck should have made recovery impossible. It almost did. In the 1,970 seconds, grizzly bear populations in the lower United States dropped below 1,000. That's functionally extinct by your models. But we preserved genetic material from diverse populations. We protected habitat. We passed laws making it illegal to kill them. We relocated problem bears instead of destroying them. We educated people on coexistence. It took 50 years, but it worked. Jake gestured and Kodiak stood on his hind legs. At full height, he reached 8 feet. Several aliens in the front row leaned back. Bears are apex predators. Like wolves, they're ecosystem engineers. They spread nutrients from salmon runs into forests. They dig up roots and aerate soil. They control herbivore populations. Where bears thrive, forests thrive. They're also dangerous, noted a Dravik observer. Her scales flushed red with alarm. That creature could kill any being in this room. He could, Jake agreed calmly. But he won't. Kodiak was raised in a conservation program. He's habituated to humans, but not dependent on us. In 2 months, he'll be released into the Montana wilderness. He'll live wild, hunt wild, breed wild. His cubs will never see a human if we do our job right. Then why bring him here? Dean Courtnax asked. To prove a point. You see a monster. I see a success story. Earth used to have 3 million brown bears. We killed them down to less than 100,000. Now they're coming back. Not because we're primitive. Because we learned from our mistakes. Jake deactivated the holographic display. The auditorium lights brightened. Your species lost apex predators too. I've read the ecological collapse reports. The Zenthari forest giants. The Vexorian ocean hunters. The Krillian sky serpents. All gone. All declared impossible to recover. End quote. He pulled out another data chip. This contains genetic recovery protocols, habitat restoration strategies, population management techniques. It's not a magic solution. Some species are gone beyond recovery. But others? Others might not be as extinct as you think. That C never won. Our member, 2-0. A Galactic Council observer stood. Her species was Peltheran, rare in this sector, known for their bureaucratic precision. Mr. Morrison. You're offering this information freely? Yes. Why? Such knowledge has immense value. You could demand technology, resources, political favor. Jake looked at her steadily. Because extinction is everyone's problem. Because we're not the only species that misses what we lost. Because maybe if we share what we learned, fewer species will have to grieve for creatures that didn't have to die. The observer sat down slowly. The council will want to meet with you. I assumed they would. Professor Velshara stood next. Her antennae were steady now, confident. Mr. Morrison, your third presentation is scheduled for tomorrow. May I ask what species you're presenting? Peregrine falcon. Falco peregrinus. Fastest creature on Earth. Nearly wiped out by pesticide poisoning in the 1,960 seconds. Now there are tens of thousands across 6 continents. And after that? Jake smiled. After that, I go home. But I'm leaving behind something more important than presentations. He held up a communicator. Direct line to Earth's Conservation Council. Any species wanting help can call. We can't promise success, but we'll try. The Krillian admiral in the back spoke for the first time. And, if we can't afford your help, we don't charge for it. Saving species isn't a business. It's a responsibility. The auditorium erupted in conversation. Jake let them talk. Kodiak sat beside him, perfectly calm despite the noise. The bear had been through worse. He'd been captured as a cub after his mother was killed by a poacher. He'd lived in recovery centers, been transferred between programs, undergone medical procedures. This was just another strange room full of strange creatures making strange noises. Lisa appeared at the stage edge. You've got about 15 interview requests and 3 death threats. The death threats are from a Penthorian extremist group that thinks you're lying about the extinctions. Are they credible? Security says no. They're mad you're making their planet look bad. Apparently they lost about 90% of their megafauna and decided it was inevitable. rather than admit it was preventable. Jake nodded. Tell the reporters, I'll give one group interview tomorrow after the Falcon presentation. Politely decline the death threats. Already did. Also, there's someone who wants to meet Kodiak. Who? A Zenthari child. Her school is visiting the station. She saw the wolf presentation yesterday and won't stop asking her teacher if she can pet a bear. Jake looked down at Kodiak. The bear's expression remained placid. Bring her backstage. But only if her parents agree, and if she understands the rules. No sudden movements. No loud noises. And she has to let Kodiak sniff her first. 20 minutes later, a young Zenthari girl named Vilkara stood 3 feet from 600 pounds of apex predator. Her antennae trembled, but her compound eyes were bright with wonder. Kodiak sniffed her extended claw once, then sat. His message was clear. Not food. Not threat. Not interesting. Can I touch him? Vilkara's voice was barely a whisper. Slowly, Jake said. On his shoulder, not his head. The girl reached out. Her claw touched brown fur. Kodiak didn't move. For 30 seconds, a Zenthari child who'd never seen a planet's surface touched a creature her species databases said was extinct. Behind her, Vilkara's teacher recorded everything on her communicator. Tears streaming down her face. He's warm, Vilkara said with wonder. All mammals are. That's one of the things we have in common. Is he happy? Jake considered the question. I think so. He's healthy. He's going home soon. He's had a good life. We don't have any like him left. Teacher says our giants died before I was born. I know. I'm sorry. Can humans bring them back? Jake knelt beside the girl. I don't know. Maybe. If you have genetic samples. If you have preserved tissue. If you have the right habitat. It would take a long time. But maybe. Vilkara turned to look at him with all 8 of her compound eyes. Would you try? Yes. If your people wanted us to, yes. The girl turned back to Kodiak. She placed both claws on his fur now, gentle and reverent. I want to be like you when I grow up. Like Kodiak? Like humans. Who bring things back. Jake felt something catch in his throat. That's the best thing anyone said to me since I got here. Later that night, Jake sat in his quarters reviewing notes for the Falcon presentation. Luna slept at his feet. Through the window, Earth turned slowly in the black. Somewhere down there, wolves howled, bears fished, falcons dove. Species that shouldn't exist continued existing because humans had decided extinction didn't have to be permanent. His communicator chimed. Dean Courtnax's face appeared on the screen. Mr. Morrison, the Galactic Council has requested your presence. They wish to discuss formal conservation partnerships. When? After your final presentation. They're sending a delegation. I'll be ready. Mr. Morrison? That child today. Vilkara. She's already told half the station she's going to help bring back the Zenthari giants. Her teacher says she won't talk about anything else. Jake smiled. Good. You're changing things here, faster than anyone anticipated. That was the idea. Some species won't like it. They've built philosophies around accepting extinction as inevitable. You're challenging that. I know. We challenged it on Earth, too. Some people fought us every step. Said it was playing God. Said it was unnatural. Said it was a waste of resources. They were wrong. And if they fight you here, then we'll show them why they're wrong. Same as we did at home. Courtnax's 6 eyes studied Jake carefully. You're not what we expected from a primitive species. We're not primitive. We're just younger. There's a difference. Jake paused. Besides, primitive species don't bring back the dead. We do. That makes us something else entirely. The screen went dark. Jake returned to his notes. Tomorrow he'd present a falcon. Tomorrow he'd field questions from reporters. Tomorrow he'd meet with the Galactic Council. But tonight, he sat with a wolf at his feet and a bear in the next room, living proof that extinction was negotiable if you worked hard enough. The galaxy was learning. And Earth, the planet they'd dismissed as dying, was teaching them the most important lesson. Nothing is over until you stop trying. Outside, stars burned in the endless dark. Among them, Earth hung blue and green and alive, a planet of impossible recoveries and stubborn hope. The galaxy had written it off. The galaxy had been wrong. And Jake Morrison, with his wolves and bears and falcons, was making sure they never made that mistake again. The Falcon presentation broke attendance records. Over 600 aliens crowded into spaces designed for 300. The remaining 1,000 watched via remote feeds that crashed twice from overwhelming demand. Station security gave up trying to control the crowd, and simply ensured the exits remained clear. Jake walked on stage with Athena riding on his gloved arm. The peregrine falcon weighed less than 2 pounds but commanded the room instantly. Her dark eyes tracked the crowd with predatory precision. Her talons gripped Jake's leather gauntlet with casual strength that could shred flesh if she chose. "This is Athena," Jake said, letting his voice carry. "No holographic displays this time. No data chips. Just a man and a bird. Falco peregrinus. Peregrine falcon. The fastest animal on Earth. When diving for prey, she reaches speeds over 200 miles per hour. That's 320 kilometers per hour for those using galactic standard measurements." He raised his arm. Athena spread her wings. The span reached nearly 4 feet. Several aliens gasped. In 1,970, there were fewer than 400 breeding pairs in North America. Pesticides had made their eggs so fragile, they broke during incubation. We'd poisoned the food chain so thoroughly that the apex aerial predator was dying. Your databases marked them extinct by 1985. Jake lowered his arm. Athena folded her wings. Current population. Over 3,500 breeding pairs in North America alone. Worldwide estimates exceed several 100,000. They nest on city skyscrapers now. They hunt pigeons in urban centers. They've adapted to human civilization instead of fleeing from it. A Peltherin observer called out, "How?" "We captured birds. We bred them in captivity. We cleaned up the pesticides. We protected nesting sites. We released their offspring into the wild. It took 30 years. We released over 6,000 captive-bred peregrines. Most died, but enough survived to establish breeding populations." Jake activated his communicator. A holographic display appeared after all, but not of statistics. It showed a video feed. Live. Real time. A peregrine falcon nest on a building in New York City. 4 chicks huddled together while their mother stood guard. Below them, millions of humans went about their day, completely unaware of the predator above them. That's a live feed from yesterday. That mother is 3rd-generation wild. Her grandmother never saw captivity. This is what success looks like. Not perfection. Not restoration to some mythical past. But survival. Adaptation. Continuation. Professor Thim's tentacles coiled and uncoiled. "Mr. Morrison, I've reviewed your data. The resources required for these recovery programs. The time invested. The failure rate. By any economic analysis, it's inefficient." "Yes. Then why do it?" Jake looked at the Vexorian biologist steadily. "Because efficiency isn't the only measure of worth. Because species have value beyond their economic utility. Because we made mistakes and we chose to fix them. Because a world without peregrines is a lesser world." Dean Kortnak stood. "The Galactic Council delegation has arrived early. They've requested this presentation be transmitted to their homeworlds. They want their populations to see this." "Why?" a new voice answered. A Penthorian admiral Jake didn't recognize stepped forward from the crowd. His carapace bore markings of extreme age, because in 800 years of galactic civilization, no species has ever demonstrated successful, large-scale de-extinction protocols. "You're not offering us data, Mr. Morrison. You're offering us hope. The Admiral's words hung in the air. Jake felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on him. Alien eyes. Compound eyes. Multifaceted eyes. Eyes that had watched their own worlds lose species and accepted it as inevitable. It's not easy, Jake said quietly. Some species we've tried to save are still gone. We brought back California condors, but we lost the golden toad. We saved black-footed ferrets, but we can't recover the passenger pigeon yet. Every success comes with failures. Every breakthrough comes with setbacks. He raised his arm. Athena shifted her weight. But here's what we learned. Extinction isn't a binary state. It's a process. And processes can be interrupted if you catch them early enough, if you preserve genetic material, if you protect habitat, if you admit you made a mistake and work to fix it. That's the key, isn't it? A Zenthari professor spoke from the middle section. Admitting mistakes. Our civilizations don't do that well. We categorize extinction as inevitable, rather than acknowledge it was preventable. Yes, Jake agreed. That's exactly it. We killed the wolves. We poisoned the falcons. We hunted the bears. Those weren't natural processes. Those were choices. Bad choices. So we made different choices. Lisa Park appeared at the stage edge, urgent. Jake saw the tension in her posture. We have a problem. What kind? The good kind. 17 species delegations are requesting immediate conservation consultations. The Vexorians want to discuss ocean hunter recovery. The Krillians are asking about sky serpent genetic archives. The Zenthari Council is demanding priority access to forest giant restoration protocols. Demanding? They're offering full Earth embassy status, Senate seat, trade agreements, technology transfers. Everything they can think of. Jake felt Athena's talons tighten on his glove. The falcon sensed his tension. He forced himself to relax. Tell them I'll meet with everyone who wants to meet. But the information isn't for sale. It's shared freely, or not at all. They won't like that. They don't have to like it. They just have to accept it. The Penthorian admiral approached the stage. Mr. Morrison, I am Admiral Kenth of the Penthorian Defense Fleet. My species lost 91% of our megafauna during our industrial age. We have records. We have genetic samples in long-term storage. We have habitat that could be restored. But we never tried, because we were told it was impossible. It's not impossible. It's just hard. Will you help us? Jake looked at the ancient admiral. At the hope in his alien face. At the weight of species lost hanging between them. Yes. We'll help. But you have to do the work. We can give you protocols and advice, but you have to want it enough to commit resources and time. We do. From the crowd, other voices rose. A Krillian officer. A Zenthari scientist. A Dravik ecologist. Each offering the same thing. Worlds that had lost their megafauna. Species that had vanished. Ecosystems that had simplified and diminished. Each asking the same question. Can you help us? Jake raised his free hand for silence. I'm one person. I can't help everyone. But Earth has thousands of conservation biologists, ecologists, geneticists, wildlife managers. We'll organize a coalition. We'll share everything we know. But understand this. Some species are gone beyond recovery. Some habitats are destroyed, beyond restoration. We can't work miracles. But you can work, said Dean Courtnax. That's more than the rest of us have done. Jake nodded. Then we'll work together. But on Earth's terms. We don't sell this knowledge. We share it. We don't patent genetic recovery techniques. We make them open source. We don't hold species hostage for political gain. We save them because it's right. The Pelthoran observer who'd questioned him earlier stepped forward. The Galactic Council will need to approve these terms. Then they'll approve them or we'll work without them. Earth doesn't need the Council's permission to help species that are dying. That's not how galactic protocols work. Then maybe galactic protocols need updating. Jake's voice hardened. Your protocols declared my planet dying. Your protocols said extinction was irreversible. Your protocols were wrong. So maybe it's time to write new protocols. The auditorium erupted. Half the crowd was shouting agreement. The other half was shouting objections. Security moved to the stage, but Jake waved them off. He raised his arm, and Athena launched. The Falcon's wings caught the air. She circled the auditorium once, twice, 3 times. The crowd fell silent. Watching a creature that shouldn't exist demonstrate mastery of flight in a space station hundreds of miles above her planet. She dove, pulled up, circled again. Then she returned to Jake's arm as smoothly as if she'd done it 1,000 times. That's what we're offering, Jake said into the silence. Not just data. Not just protocols, but a different way of thinking, where extinction is a challenge to overcome instead of a fate to accept, where species matter enough to fight for, where humans and aliens work together to fix what got broken. He looked directly at the Galactic Council observers. You can participate or you can watch, but we're doing this either way. Earth is moving forward. The galaxy can come with us or get left behind. Admiral Kent began a slow clap. It spread through the Penthorian delegation, then to the Zenthari observers, then to the Krillians, the Vexorians, the Draviks. Within moments, the entire auditorium was applauding. A cacophony of alien appreciation that transcended species. Lisa appeared beside him. You just challenged the Galactic Council in front of 600 witnesses and 1,000 remote viewers. I know. They're either going to promote you or deport you. Probably both. Jake scratched Athena under her chin. The Falcon's eyes half closed in pleasure. But it needed to be said. What now? Now we go home. We've done what we came to do. Showed them wolves and bears and falcons. Proved Earth isn't dying. Offered help on our terms. The rest is up to them. You make it sound simple. It is simple, complicated, but simple. We save species. They decide if they want to join us. The applause finally died down. Jake walked off stage with Athena on his arm. Behind him, delegates were already forming groups, discussing possibilities, making plans. The galaxy was mobilizing, and all it had taken was one human with 3 animals and the stubborn refusal to accept extinction as permanent. In his quarters that night, Jake filed his final reports. Luna slept on the floor. Kodiak was already packed for transport back to Earth. Athena roosted on a perch, one eye open, ever watchful. Outside the window, Earth hung serene and blue. His communicator chimed one last time. Dean Courtnax appeared. The Galactic Council wants to speak with you before you leave. I'll be there. Mr. Morrison? Vilkera, the Zenthari child who met Kodiak? Her family has applied for Earth Asylum. They want to move to your planet. To study conservation biology. To help bring back their giants. Jake felt something warm spread through his chest. Tell them they're welcome. We'll find them a place. There will be others. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Species wanting to learn from you. Then we'll teach them. That's what this was always about. The screen went dark. Jake looked at his 3 companions. A wolf, a bear, a falcon. Species that shouldn't exist, but did. Because humans had decided they mattered enough to save. Tomorrow he'd face the Galactic Council. Tomorrow he'd answer questions and navigate politics, and probably make more enemies. But tonight, he was just a conservation biologist with 3 animals, and a mission accomplished. The extinct walked again. The galaxy knew it now, and nothing would ever be the same. The Galactic Council chamber occupied the station's central hub, a massive sphere where gravity generators created a sense of up and down despite the spinning station around it. 50 seats arranged in concentric circles, each representing a major galactic civilization. At the center, a raised platform where speakers stood to address the assembly. Jake walked to that platform alone. He'd left Luna, Kodiak, and Athena, in the care of the veterinary team. This wasn't about showing animals anymore. This was about consequences. The council members watched him approach. He recognized species from across the galaxy. Penthorians, Zenthari, Krillians, Vexorians, Draviks. Others he'd only read about. Ancient civilizations that had been traveling the stars when Earth was still developing multicellular life. Jake Morrison of Earth, intoned the council moderator. A Krillian, named Veshtar, whose scales had faded to pale gray with age. You have presented information that challenges centuries of established understanding. You have made claims that contradict our databases. You have offered assistance that undermines galactic economic structures. The council must determine how to proceed. I understand, Jake said simply. Do you? Your actions have created political chaos. 17 species are demanding immediate conservation programs. 12 more are threatening to withdraw from galactic trade agreements unless they receive priority access to Earth's knowledge. 3 minor wars are on hold because the combatants want to discuss extinct species recovery instead. Is that a bad thing? Veshtar's scales rippled, a Krillian expression of irritation. It's destabilizing. The galactic community operates on predictability. Order. You've introduced chaos. A Zenthari counselor spoke up, her antennae vibrating. Counselor Veshtar. With respect, the chaos was always there. We simply refused to acknowledge it. We accepted extinction. We categorized it as inevitable. This human has shown us we were wrong. Counselor Thelvara, the economic implications alone are irrelevant, interrupted a Penthorian counselor. I've reviewed the conservation data Earth provided. Freely provided. They're not asking for payment. They're not demanding concessions. They're offering help because species matter to them. When was the last time any civilization in this chamber did anything for purely ethical reasons? The chamber erupted. Jake stood at the center platform, watching the greatest political body in the galaxy devolve into argument. About wolves. About bears. About the philosophical implications of refusing to accept extinction. Admiral Kenth stood from the Penthorian section. His voice cut through the noise. Order. We're debating the wrong question. The question isn't whether to accept Earth's help. The question is why we didn't develop these capabilities ourselves. We tried, said a Vexorian counselor, her tentacles coiling defensively. Our ocean hunters were lost 3,000 years ago. We attempted cloning. We failed. Did you? Jake spoke for the first time since the debate started. Or, did you try once, fail, and accept it as impossible? Mr. Morrison, Veshtar warned. You are here to answer questions, not ask them. Then ask better questions. Don't ask me why Earth succeeded. Ask yourselves why you stopped trying. We failed too. Hundreds of times. Some species we still can't save. But we keep trying. That's the difference, a Dravik counselor hissed, scales flushing deep red. You dare to judge us? Your species nearly destroyed your own planet. You poisoned your air, your water, your soil. You drove species to extinction through ignorance and greed. You have no moral high ground. You're right. Jake agreed calmly. We nearly destroyed Earth. We made terrible mistakes. We're still making them. But we owned those mistakes. We admitted we'd screwed up. And then we tried to fix it. Can every species in this chamber say the same? The Dravik counselor settled back in her seat, scales slowly fading to neutral colors. Counselor Thelvara stood again. Mr. Morrison, the Zenthari Collective wants to establish formal conservation partnerships with Earth. We have genetic archives dating back 5,000 years. We have habitat preservation zones. We have resources. What we lack is hope that recovery is possible. Will you help us? 1. 1 Fode. 1-3. Yes. But understand what you're committing to. Recovery takes decades. It requires consistent effort, constant monitoring, repeated failures. You can't start this and give up when it gets hard. We won't. The child Vilkara spoke to her teachers, who spoke to administrators, who spoke to the collective council. Your presentation reached 8 billion Zenthari. We've had more volunteers for conservation programs in the last 3 days than in the previous century. You didn't just bring back wolves, Mr. Morrison. A Peltheron counselor activated her communication device. The Peltheron Union has analyzed your protocols. We've identified 14 species in our genetic archives that might be recoverable. We want to begin immediately. So does the Krillian Empire, said another counselor. Our sky serpents have been gone for 8 centuries. If there's even a small chance, there is. Jake interrupted. But it won't be easy. And it won't be fast. The first few attempts will probably fail. But you'll teach us how to try? You'll share your methods? Freely, openly. We'll send scientists. We'll establish joint research programs. We'll train your conservationists. But you have to commit. Half measures won't work. Veshtar raised a claw for silence. The Council requires a formal vote. Do we accept Earth's offer of conservation partnership? With no strings attached? Sharing knowledge freely? Across species? This is unprecedented, objected a Thex counselor. Knowledge of this value is always traded. That's how civilization functions. Garamond. Then maybe, said Admiral Kenth. Civilization needs to learn new functions. The vote was called. 43 in favor, 5 opposed, 2 abstentions. The Galactic Council, that ancient body that had governed interstellar relations for millennia, had just agreed to accept help from a planet it had classified as primitive 2 months ago. Earth is hereby granted full member status, Veshtar announced, with all rights and privileges thereof, including Senate representation, trade agreements, and technology access. We don't want technology access, Jake said. We want conservation partnerships. We want to help restore ecosystems. We want species to survive. You're refusing galactic technology? Veshtar's scales showed confusion. Faster than light travel, energy generation, medical advances. You could leapfrog centuries of development. We could. But that's not why we're here. Besides, we'll figure out FTL eventually. Probably faster, if we're not handed the solution. Humans are good at solving problems when we're motivated. You're insane, said the Dravik counselor, but there was admiration in her voice. Maybe. But we're insane with 30,000 wolves, 37,000 bears, and hundreds of thousands of peregrines. I'll take that kind of insanity over sane extinction any day. The council chamber fell silent. Then, Admiral Kenth began to laugh. It was a harsh, barking sound, but genuine. I like this species. They refuse our technology, challenge our assumptions, and offer help we didn't know we needed. The galaxy needs more insanity like this. Counselor Thelvara approached the central platform. Mr. Morrison, when you return to Earth, would you carry a message to your leaders? Of course. Tell them the Zenthari Collective remembers the forest giants. Tell them we never stopped grieving their loss. Tell them if humans can teach us to bring them back, we will build monuments to your species that last 10,000 years. Jake felt his throat tighten. You don't need to build monuments. Just bring back your giants. That'll be monument enough. The meeting continued for hours. Details were hammered out. Joint research initiatives. Exchange programs. Genetic archive sharing protocols. By the time Jake left the chamber, his communicator was full of messages. Scientists wanting collaboration. Politicians wanting interviews. Conservation groups wanting partnerships. Lisa met him outside. You did it. Earth has a galactic embassy now. Full member status. Species across the galaxy wanting to work with us. We did it, Jake corrected. This was never about me. It was about showing what's possible. When you refuse to accept extinction. What now? Now we go home. We've got work to do. Passenger pigeons aren't going to resurrect themselves. The shuttle departed 3 days later. Jake sat beside the window, Luna's head resting on his lap. Kodiak was sedated in the cargo hold, sleeping peacefully for the journey. Athena rode in a specialized carrier, alert and watchful. As the station receded, Jake watched it shrink against the stars. Inside that structure, 17 species were beginning conservation programs. Genetic archives were being opened for the first time in centuries. Scientists from a dozen civilizations were learning Earth protocols. And a young Zenthari girl, named Vilkara, was studying to become a conservation biologist. His communicator chimed. Dean Courtnax's final message. Safe journey, extinction killer. You've changed the galaxy. Don't let it change you. Jake smiled. Below them, Earth grew larger, blue and green and beautiful. A planet of impossible recoveries. A planet that refused to let things die. Home. Luna stirred in his lap. Her amber eyes opened, focusing on the planet below. She whined once, soft and low. Almost home. Yeah, girl, Jake murmured, scratching behind her ears. We're going home. There's work to do. On Earth's surface, in Yellowstone, a wolf pack howled at the rising moon. In Montana, grizzly bears prepared their dens for winter. In cities across the planet, peregrine falcons hunted pigeons among skyscrapers. The extinct lived again, thriving in a world that had learned to make room for them. And now the galaxy would learn that lesson too. Because one human had walked into an alien classroom with a wolf, and everything had changed. Extinction wasn't permanent. Not anymore. Not if you were willing to work hard enough, care enough, fight enough. The galaxy had listed wolves as extinct. They'd been wrong about wolves. They'd been wrong about bears and falcons. They'd been wrong about humanity. And now, finally, they were learning what Earth had known all along. Nothing is truly lost until you stop trying to find it. Jake Morrison, conservation biologist, looked at his planet growing larger in the window. Somewhere down there, scientists were working on passenger pigeons. Rangers were monitoring wolf packs. Biologists were tracking bear populations. The work continued, day after day, year after year. The patient, persistent work of bringing back what had been lost. And now the galaxy would join that work. Species thought extinct for millennia might walk again. Ecosystems might recover. Worlds might heal. All because humans had proven it was possible. The shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere. Fire bloomed along the edges of the heat shield. Luna pressed closer to Jake, instinctively seeking comfort. He held her steady, murmuring reassurance. They were almost home. Below, in a conservation facility in Montana, a team prepared to receive Kodiak. He'd spend 2 weeks in quarantine, then gradual reintroduction to wilderness areas. By spring, he'd be free. Living the life a bear should live. Wild and strong, and free. In New York City, the peregrine falcon nest Jake had showed the galaxy still held 4 healthy chicks. Their mother watched over them, unaware that her species had become a symbol of hope for civilizations across the stars. In Wyoming, the alpha female of the Yellowstone pack stood on a ridge, silhouetted against the sunset. Her pack spread through the valley below. More than 30 wolves, descendants of the 14 released decades ago, proof that recovery was possible. The shuttle landed smoothly. Jake walked down the ramp with Luna beside him, Athena on his arm. A crowd waited. News crews, scientists, government officials, and at the front, his mentor, Dr. Sarah Goldman, who'd taught him everything he knew about conservation biology. Welcome home, extinction killer, she called out. Jake laughed. That name is going to stick, isn't it? You brought wolves to alien academia and started a galactic conservation revolution. Exhausting, satisfying, terrifying. We've committed to helping 17 species resurrect their extinct megafauna. We're going to need a lot more scientists. We're already recruiting. Volunteers are coming from every conservation program on the planet. Apparently, the idea of saving alien species is pretty motivating. End of I. Jake looked at his planet. His home. The world that had nearly destroyed itself, but chose to heal instead. The world that refused to let extinction be final. The world that was about to teach the galaxy how to bring back the dead. Good, he said quietly. We're going to need everyone. This is just the beginning. Luna barked once, sharp and clear. A wolf's voice. Strong and alive. Proof that extinction was negotiable. Proof that humans kept their promises. Proof that nothing was truly lost if you cared enough to search. The galaxy had listed wolves as extinct. They'd been wrong. And now, across hundreds of worlds, species thought lost forever were about to get a second chance because humans had walked in with wolves and shown the universe that extinction didn't have to be the end of the story. It could be the beginning of the comeback. Jake Morrison walked toward the waiting vehicles. A wolf at his side and a falcon on his arm, carrying with him the weight of galactic hope. Behind him, the shuttle's cargo bay opened, and handlers prepared to move one very sleepy bear. Above, stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Among them, a space station orbited, full of aliens learning human conservation protocols, full of scientists planning resurrection programs, full of hope for species that had been mourned as permanently lost. Earth had changed the galaxy. 1 human, 3 animals, and the stubborn refusal to accept extinction as inevitable. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was just the beginning.